Like I said, this is a real treat tonight, all the way from New Zealand. First time in America, Blair is going to do his thing.
I might give you a Maori greeting. Kia ora, tēnā koto, tēnā koto, tēnā koto katoa. Which means, hello, welcome to this place, welcome to our heart, welcome to our life. Well, it is a pleasure to be here. As I said before, this is my first meeting here in the US. I have been working quite extensively as a channel in New Zealand for the last 18 years. We've run big public meditation teaching evenings. We've had a radio program in New Zealand, which is actually quite interesting. We call it Talking with Tabash. And we started off where Tabash would do a teaching and then people could ring up and ask him questions. Then invariably people started asking the same questions all the time, like, you know, is there a man out there for me? And, that was just the men. So we actually changed the format, and so Tabash started interviewing people. And we had all sorts of interesting people. We had the race relations conciliator came on, we had a MP come on, we even had a channel from the UK came on, and so she channeled her spirit and I channeled my spirit. So here's these two spirits on national radio in New Zealand, which I think was a first. I define channeling as being a bit like a human radio or a human telephone. I believe that everybody is sensitive to spirit, obviously, because we're all God. And there are some people who have a vibration that allows us to be used in this manner. I let Tabash use my body like it's his own. So as Blair, I have no conscious memory of what Tabash says to anybody at all. I know some channels are conscious channels, but I literally move into spirit while Tabash is actually talking to you. He's a very energetic and amiable entity. He's very funny. He's also fairly in your face, but in a good way. Tabash just believes in saying it as it is. Physically, there's always a few subtle changes. My voice will be different. People have often remarked how I get very shiny when I channel. And when I ask Tabash about that, he says, God's light shines through your body when you channel spirit. My eyes apparently can look a bit doolally as well. So, as someone said, you look like you're on major drugs. Having never been on major drugs, I don't know about it. Anyway, I really don't know what he's going to talk about because he never tells me that. And all the years I've been channeling with Tabash, he never fills me in on what he's going to do in a public lecture. So when I'm backstage wondering, you know, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Etc. The minute you step on the stage, it's like you just feel the energy come in and he goes, and he says this thing. He might wander, so he might jump off the stage and wander around and say g'day, whatever, or say a few things. He may not, I don't know, it's up to him. So anyway, have a really good time with him, and I'll bring him through. It doesn't take long for me to bring spirit through, up to 30 seconds, so it's quite a fast transition. My body will shake a little bit, that's just the energy changing, and then Tabash will be there, and then he'll pretty much get on with it. So have a nice time, and I'll see you when I go back.
Hello. Have you ever tried to fit into a body that is not yours? It's the most experience that is very hard to define. However, if you think about this thing that you people call your souls, I'd like to give you a definition, which I think would be rather interesting. Imagine your soul is like a giant CD, and it goes off into infinity. And if you imagine that right at this moment, this is this part of your soul that you are paying attention to. So this is the part of you that you are experiencing. Your consciousness, your conscious experience. You as God in your human nature. And the rest of you is just simply everywhere else. So if you think about it, for most of you, you're unconsciously drawing from all that other information that is already there. So all of your happinesses, and all of your sadnesses, and all of your possibilities, whatever they may be, mind and body and spirit, are just there, doing their thing. So you as the souls in your body, you are paying attention to who you are now, and what you are paying attention to are ideas that you have established that makes you think that this is what you are all about. But what you are all about is whatever you want to be all about. So therefore, if you think you have access to everything, then why not just invite it in? Think about it. You have structures in your days. And when you have these structures in your days, you know that as souls, in your human nature, you're going to use certain aspects of self. So does it not make sense to think that on awakening, you just invite in the aspects that you need? So for instance, when you go to work, right, I'll just call in my work self for the day. Or if you're going to go to the gym, I shall call in my superhuman athletic self, or my friendship self, or my social self. So what you're doing is that you're gathering these energies. And as you gather these energies, then they simply fold into your human nature. And then as you get on with the day, what you do is you just simply live it out. And at any moment, you can call in another aspect, you see. So therefore, you do not need to seek out a thing. You do not need to become anything. You don't need to do anything, because everything is what you are. And everything that you need is within you. As the human Bible has said, go to the kingdom of heaven within. And that is simply go to your soul. You have your human nature. And your human nature runs your humanness. And you have your God nature. And your God nature runs your soul. And that is what you are. And it's the soul part of you that has all the answers. And your human nature has no answers at all. So isn't it rather ironic that humans are actually going to the part of you that does not have the answers, you see? And so what you find now is that you start seeking for more. Because you really do know that you are the soul. You do really know that there's that part of you that has everything. And that's why human nature, when they get into their density, start seeking for that something more. And it comes to you through inspiration, ideas, attitudes, but you keep on reaching for more. And why do you do that? Because you know that that more is always there. So this is where it's not about what do I need to figure or sort. You are God's. Because you are powerful, because you already are in harmony, because you already are magnificent, you have established within yourselves this need to self-develop. And what you are doing is you are developing the selves. And as you bring these selves together, then you are bringing about a great consciousness. This whole consolidation of you is what's happening at this point. It brings a whole new meaning to pulling the self together. So as you bring this energy in, then this is what you humans call your God nature. So as you bring all those vibrations, as you bring all these frequencies together, what you're doing is that your own personal magnetism is pulling all this higher vibration, all this energy, and it consolidates into one point of consciousness. And it's this point of consciousness that you have within you now. And it's this point of consciousness that you need to actually live your lives by now. Because you can't afford to live by the old vibrations. And this is why as you lift up your frequencies, your soul self is basically putting his hand up and saying, look, I don't want to do it like that anymore. That didn't work. So what's working is what you humans call harmony. See it like a formula. And everything is formulas, whether it's the basic laws of physics to just your own cells and how you put yourself together. The major formula of life on this planet is what you people know as mind, body, spirit. So that is the formula of life on earth. And so when you feed the mind and the body and the spirit daily in a manner which you know gives you harmony, then what it does is that it sends out a message to your cellular structure to become a greater magnet. So what you do is you start attracting towards you frequencies that lift your consciousness up. And that, of course, sends a message to your physiological system, which therefore triggers off a chemical response to your physical body. So your physical body is actually run by biochemicals. So as you establish the correct chemistry in your physical system, then what happens is that this is where you begin to do a little bit of deletion from your systems, quite naturally. And as you do this naturally, then you realize it's not about what are the great efforts that I have to put into things. It's more a matter of what do I choose to think, or choose to feel, or choose to be? What do I choose to establish for myself as this God in this body that I am living in? So it is about your choice. And as you're establishing more and more choices for yourself, you've got to allow yourself, how imperative it is, to say, I have to be responsible for who I am. I can't point the finger at anything or anybody. My life is my choice. When I was in spirit and I decided to reincarnate again, I chose everything. I chose whether it's to be a male or a female. I chose whether it's going to be a certain country, the time in history, who my parents were. I've chosen absolutely everything. And so here I am at this point in my life, at this point in my life. So when I look at the life that I have lived, so far, how have I done? And from this point, where do I choose to go? Not what do I have to figure out, sort out, reason out, process out, but where do I choose to go? What do I choose to think, choose to feel, choose to participate in? Am I being responsible for who I am? Or am I still permitting myself to allow other people to be responsible for who I am in any respect, whether it be mind or body and spirit? Human nature has seemed to got rather addicted into being victims. And when you become a victim, then you create circumstances that limit you. And limitation is something that is very addictive. People love it. They get addicted to pain and hurts and misery and wars and conflicts. They get addicted to angers and fears, as Dolores was saying before. And these are vibrations. They're not bad. They're just limited. They don't work for you. And I see so many people in their self-development embracing higher concepts, embracing the idea. But do they really live the energy? And people have even said to me, oh, but how do you do that? How can you truly live as God consciously all the time? I said, well, it's easy. You just have to remember that that's what you are. You are God in your bodies, creating life. And so it's really a matter of, through the day, attaching the highest idea to what you're doing. I'm God driving down the motorway. I am God at work. I am God in my relationship. I am God. I am God. I mean, you don't have to use that word if you don't feel comfortable with that. You can use whatever word you wish. But it's about allowing yourself to realize that the only way that you're going to have mastery over all that is happening is when you have mastery over self. And of course what you'll do is you'll attract towards you souls that are stimulants. Stimulants that are there to open up your whole being, your whole soul, so that therefore you wake up to the power that you are. And then that power sends itself into your human nature, and in your human nature terms, you find that you're able to walk the vibration in a higher way, because you can. And so this eliminates this necessity for struggle. This eliminates the necessity for you souls to make, I like to call it misery gut stuff. So when you create this misery gut stuff, then what you end up doing is you end up dragging these barges around with you that weigh you down. And even though you feel, I'm heading to the light, I'm heading to the light, but it's a bit of a journey as I head to this light. I'm weighing myself down with it, you see. Oh yeah, but I've got to struggle occasionally. Why? This whole thing about you've got to take the good with the bad. It doesn't work that way. It never has. God gave you everything straight away. But of course, look what human nature has done with it. And it's not about blame or anything like that. See what happens when you forget that you are God. You just, as you people say, lose the plot. And when you lose the plot, then you've got to get back to it. And this is why all of this is happening now. All of this self-development, all of this consolidation that's happening is because people are remembering once again who they are. And the more people who remember it, the more it lifts the consciousness. And as the more it lifts the consciousness, then the more you have access to what's available to you. Now, why is it that in the past, people had a very archaic attitude and idea towards, what was out there? And that's because they carry this human nature ignorance about them, usually based on how other people took them. Oh, you can't be this, you can't do that. So, of course, keep the masses in an ignorant state, and therefore we can be in control. It's still happening. You just call it governments these days. And so what's happening though, is that people are far more evolved in their understanding about how mind and body spirit works. So therefore, as the consciousness is lifted, then therefore this is how you overcome the density that governments throw up. This is how you overcome the density. Not necessarily by being angry about it, not by being dense about it, but by actually being God, just to yourself. And of course, the more that happens, then united we stand, divided we fall. And the formula has been there all of the time. But of course, because of the karma on this planet, as Dolores was saying, you get involved in the emotional energies. And so you forget your God nature. From our perspective, karma is your emotional attachments to ideas, your emotional attachments to experiences, your emotional attachments to each other, your emotional attachment to all that you see around you. And so as long as you have too hard of an emotional attachment, then it's going to be very difficult for you to overcome things, you see. It's a rather extraordinary time because you are actually outgrowing your human nature. And as you are outgrowing your human nature, you're actually growing into your God nature. And many of you will understand this when I say this. A lot of you are outgrowing people. And when you look at that, it's not that you don't want to be with each other, it's that you no longer need to be so connected emotionally in the human nature way, because you're getting connected in the true way, which is your God way. And so when you start linking in as God, as souls, it rather changes the dynamics of your relationships, you see. Because suddenly, there's no more issues. Suddenly you don't have to look towards, well, why am I in that relationship? Instead you know, oh, hang on, I'm only going to attract towards me souls that I know that give me harmony. And as I overcome more and more and more of my own understanding of human nature, then I'm just going to be this God, which means I'm not going to have issues. I'm not going to have problems. I'm not going to attract towards me people where I've got to work something through or figure something out. Because your energies, this will not resonate to those vibrations and frequencies. And this is what you are. And this is what you need to practice. And you practice it in your normal and everyday life. But people go, oh yeah, but. Because they're always looking for some hurdle that they need to put in self. Because you're taught that you've got to suffer. Or you're taught that you have to earn it. Or you have been taught that you've got to become something before you become that, you see. Why not just be what you are? Why not love because you can? Why not be creative because you can? Why not heal because you can? Why not just be with each other because you can? Why do you need a reason? Why do you need a purpose? Why do you need an aim? Why do you need a goal? Why can't you just be? That's how it works. That's the power of life. You exist. You are. The consciousness, the point of energy. Move away from identity. Move away from reasoning. move away from purpose and become it all. But human nature again, oh, but I've got to be here for a reason. People have often said, what is my purpose in my life about? And I said, you don't have one. They look a bit confusing at me. And as I say, the purpose is whatever you may be thinking at the time, or feeling at the time, or being here with me right now. Have you ever seen that film called The Truman Show?
Uh-huh.
And that is an interesting analogy, because if you think about it, here was this soul who lived in this reality, and he had no concept of anything beyond that. And so he had been brought up in that energy to believe this was life. And it was all based around what other people were creating for him, you see. And of course, unbeknown to him, it was a reality TV program. And I love that bit right at the end, when he's sailing away, has no idea where he's going. No concept, but something inside of him is impelling him to move forward. And then he goes plunk into the side of the big dome. And he sees this stair and a door. And he stands up on the stair and he opens up the door. And there's Los Angeles out there. A whole parallel universe that he didn't even know existed, you see. Are you not all living your own Truman shows in a way? And are you not all waking up to the fact that suddenly you're becoming the masters and taking more and more charge about how you want things to be? So you've walked up those stairs, all of you, and you've opened up that door, and you've seen a whole new universe that's available to you. But I love to see them make a film about what happens after you walk through the door. Because that's the thing, you take a step into that place. Well, what then? And this is the place that you humans are in at this point. You're needing to negotiate some very important deals with yourself. It's all very well knowing that we're moving into these vibrations and things are shifting and changing. But it's also about, well, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm in harmony with this? How do I know when I take those steps, what it is that I need to do? Now, the simplest thing at this particular point in the shift of consciousness that is happening is to be very conscious of what I spoke of before, the formula of life. So in your own way, it's very important to pay attention to the mind, to the body, and to the spirit. I mean, it's grand to know that there's all these dimensions available to me. It's all grand to know we can all be pen pals or famous extraterrestrials. But what we have to do is that we have to remember, but that's not the reality I'm living. This is the reality I'm living. This is the focus I need to put on. Interest is good, but it's about how's my cells doing, what is my vibrations doing, what do I need to do in mind and body and spirit to make sure that I am always in harmony, so that I always make the shifts when I know that it's appropriate to do, without the efforts as such as see. And that's why the two words which are very important, pay attention. Because what you pay attention to will become your life. Whatever you think or feel or do, that's the simplicity of it. And it has never been any more than that. It has never been complicated. Pay attention. And if you look at this planet with all its complications, with all its density, with all its dramas, with all its anger and its fears and its dissension, with all how it's pulling itself emotionally into so many different pieces, it can all be related to the fact that somewhere along the road of life, someone stopped paying attention. Whether that's individuals, or whether that's a country, or whether that's the whole collective consciousness. And of course, when people stop paying attention, then of course people start separating and go in too many directions, you see. And when you go into too many directions, it gets really confusing, because you create all sorts of big jams all over the way, you see. And, you know, a motorway or highway, freeway, whatever you call them, is a good analogy of that. And so, as you've traversed through your own individual lifetimes, of course you've had ones where you've been very integrated and very godlike, and so you allowed yourself to create other lifetimes where maybe you were not so much. So lives don't follow chronologically. So you don't have one life after the other following through. What you're doing is you're out there, deciding, right, I'm going to incarnate, what's the new formula? So you're creating a recipe. Oh, a bit from this, a bit from that. And as you pull this all in together, and what you do is that you establish that which you feel best suits you for that particular incarnation with those souls that you've linked in with, you see. And so as you learn to overcome the necessity for karma, in other words, as you learn to detach yourself from your human nature and just be the God that you are, which, by the way, is the simplest way to overcome karma, is to just be God. Because God doesn't have karma. So if you're just saying to yourself, I am God in my body, I am God as a woman, I am God as a man, you allow yourself to establish within yourself that vibration which is already in you, and so you wake up. And then it's a very simple process to change the energy in your aura. And a very, very simple process to start linking in with different vibrations. So collectively, you would never establish karma in any way which would be negative. And karma is not this negative thing. Karma is just those emotional attachments. I think people have to get out of their head this idea that karma is all about retribution. It's not. Karma is not a dirty word. Karma is just the way you're paying attention to your emotional attachments and your emotional ideas. And as you take responsibility for that, then you can change it like that. Just by deciding to be something higher, to be something greater. And all you have to do is put the idea of that into your normal, everyday lives, everyday experiences. And what could be simpler than that? But humans like to work through things and overcome things. And they like to set up these hurdles for themselves. But that's because they believe, well, that's how it works. But how do you want it to work? I'm sure there's no one here who actually wants a struggle. I'm sure there's no one here who wants to be complicated, or wants to work it through, or figure it out. The power that you possess as a woman is enormous. And your tiredness is not just about what you're gathered around you, but sometimes it's about you tried so hard. And so what I say to you is, don't try so hard. You're already God. If you're already God, you illuminate, you see. I'm going to give you a phrase. I'm going to give everybody a phrase. It's just a little phrase I created, which helps you to empty yourself. You need to do some emptying, you see, of all the other vibrations. That's you going into a shop and sometimes you just pick up on the energies. Right, everyone repeat this. Say this with conviction, because you're about to release a lot of old energy. From the Lord God of my being, I now choose to be totally liberated. Mind, body and spirit. Of all that limits me. Of all I am attached to. That no longer serves me. Of all I am addicted to. That does not profit me. I ask forgiveness of all people who I have hurt. In this life, in any life, in any way at all, I forgive all those who have hurt me in this life, in any life, in any way at all. Here's the biggie. And I forgive myself for all of the times I did not pay attention. I choose to be at peace. So be it. See, just in a moment, you've shifted consciousness. Not just as individuals, but as collective. And you all felt that. So you just saved each other. And you also lifted energy to make the world a better place. And again, that's how simple it is. And you see, it only took a moment. You don't have to go and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on seeking for yourself. It's much cheaper if you just go to yourself, you see. However, it is useful to get the stimulus. You are a powerful person. You must remind yourself of this one, because you are hard on yourself. And when you are hard on yourself, then you're creating hardship. And then you must ask yourself, why am I self-developing if I'm just creating more hardship for myself? You are God. You are healed. But you see, I see in the aura that you are fearful. And it is your fear that actually attracts towards you this vibration, this energy, you see. And I know how upset your sleep patterns. So you see, everything's going all over the place, you see. And this itself is adding to your tiredness. Because what's happening, imagine your aura. And imagine it's brilliant in its wonderlessness. But then what happens is you get complicated. You ever seen those things that you make scrub pots with, those wire things? Or like this big nose. That's what your aura is like sometimes. So therefore, it's like this density. And so you walk around in this misery energy like this, you see. And then, think about this. Then you start building up walls because you're fearful, because you want to protect yourself. So up goes the walls, and then you don't know what to trust. And then you become fearful about taking steps towards this. And so what you're doing is that you get the wall thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, to the point where whatever you do doesn't seem to work. So whatever vitamins you take or thoughts you take or whatever, you see, you've already convinced yourself, this isn't going to work. And so you wanted to, but you see, your human nature and your God nature are having this grand tug of war at this particular point. So what you do is the God in you cuts the rope and says, bugger that, I'm going away. And just leave your human nature and be the God that you are. And that means that the cells of your body will just illuminate with energy and lift your consciousness up. So all this trying you're doing, all this effort you're making, all these fears, all these worries, is actually just you feeding into the same soup. Here's a rather awful analogy. I mean, if you ate dinner and then vomited it up, you wouldn't re-eat it, would you? Would you? No, of course not. Well, that's what the soul's doing. So you're having a soul throw up. And as you have this soul throw up, then of course it's just moving back into the same energy, you see. And you go, oh, that's what I had on Wednesday. And so as you bring this vibration through, it's just going one. So it's like you've got the sewer going on around your vibrations. And all you need to do is do your daily emptying. Or even if you just find a moment that you're feeling you're having a little misery gut stuff, just say, oh no, I empty myself. Or, if you like, I choose to be at peace with what I'm thinking, or what I'm feeling, or what I'm doing. It is that simple. And so, you must, because what you're currently doing in this lifetime, is you must have more faith in your power, in who you are. You must do that. That's a very important thing for you. And okay, you don't have to go and seek it. What you do is that you just decide, right, I'll just call that self in. I'll call my faith self in. It's there. Because remember, everything is there. It's all out there. So again, you don't have to go on some big expedition to create or find it. You just decide, right, I need more faith, I'll draw that in. Think about what I was saying before, about you have it all available to you. A really important thing to do. Why not simply isolate the issues of your life that you know you've got to work on, or you know that you are weak in, and then call in the self that knows how to deal with that. And as you call that energy in, then it will flow into your system, and you must be consistent with it. There will be times when it will be an instant vibration like that. Other times, it might take a week, up to the most, I would say, it takes a month to shift consciousness. And it doesn't mean you've got to be like a meerkat, oh God, I'm looking for everything. It just means that you need to be aware that through the day, remember what you need to pay attention to. So what you're going to pay attention to now, that's going to make things better, please.
Joy.
Good, come on.
What brings me joy?
Yeah.
What makes me feel good as opposed to what I fear?
Are you a powerful woman? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
I don't like the somewhere stuff. That's sitting on the face.
Yes.
Yes, good. Are you healed?
Yes.
Good. Are you a dynamic individual?
Yes.
Are you the one who's in charge of your life?
Yes.
Are you the master of your destiny?
Yes.
Are you the creator of life?
Yes.
So be it. Give her an applause, please. And of course, we are all each other. So of course, that is you. That is you in some way. And what she just did, she changed all of you. I honor you for that. You are a great healer. And so it's all about remembering this collective energy. And people, in their endeavors to understand that, still turn their backs on each other. What is that phrase about? You can send a man to the moon, but you can't walk across the road and say hello to your neighbor? Technology is all very grand, but look at the division that it has created, you see. And even in self-development, people create their little divisions, create their little camps, you see. And at the end of the day, it's got to come down to, are we all actually doing it together? Are we all being the best that we can be? Hang on, I just had some water. No vodka. Actually, can you imagine the headlines? Channel gets drunk on spirits. You watch that in your LA Times tomorrow. It's the most wondrous time to be alive, and all of you souls have chosen to participate in your lifetimes at this point of history because you knew that this was what you wanted. You knew this was the best experience that you're going to have in your life because you chose it, because it fits in with your own personal vibrations. But it's not just that. Collectively, every being on this planet is someone that you're linked into. And every being on this planet, you've already made that signal to connect up with. And so, I like what Nelson Mandela said. As you let your own light shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And this is what you're doing. You're lifting your consciousness and lifting the consciousness of absolutely everybody. There's nothing wrong about who you are. There's nothing right about who you are. You're who you are because of what you are, because of your choices. You can't measure life in right or wrong ways. It's impossible. Life is. The choices that you've made are your choices. It's not about who's done what to whom, or who's a victim of what, or I didn't go to the right school, or I was born on the wrong side of the tracks, or whatever. Everything, absolutely everything, is your choice. And each of you have the most spectacular and wondrous message that you want to give to the world. And your message is simply your life and the way you're living it. That is your message. And what you do with it is your choice. And so some of you will become Hollywood stars, and some of you will drive a taxi, and some of you will be channels, and some of you will be surfers, and some of you will own shops and businesses. But whatever it is you do, it's a choice. And the thing also to remember is that you came on to say a lot. So it's about say as much as you can while you're here. And when you're doing that being God, then you recognize more of what you want to say. But if you just get caught up into your human nature energies, then this is where you come up against your hurdles. You come up against situations where suddenly you think, oh, I know I can do this, but I doubt myself. Or you'll attract too many other people to say to you, you can't do that. And you listen to them. You've done that sometimes. Not now, it's in the past. But again, you've got to remember that, okay, well, I still created that reality. All realities are your agendas. It's all to do with you. You're making these agreements, and if you don't like what you've agreed to, well, then you can change it. But you also have to be practical about it, too. You have to be aware that you can't just change things overnight. And this is where, if you think about this transition energy, it's very much started to accelerate in the last 50 years. And so as the energy shifted in its consciousness, then the vibrations all changed because many, many dense energies started to move away. And now, for the first time, you're all in control. And as individuals, you need to take control. So as you take control of your life, then it's got to be your choice, no one else's. It's impossible. If you take the time to actually remember that everything is is already within yourselves. If you take that moment to actually go through that process and realize that you have enormous potential to be so much more. If you take the moment to decide, what should I pay attention to? And then just pay attention to it. Then you will find that you will have two humans time as your paradise in your life. And it's always been with you all of the time. All of the time. The greatness is within you as we speak. The greatness is what you think, what you feel, and what you do as you are doing the energy of what you see. You've created a bit of suffering for yourself sometimes. What have you learned from it?
Change.
Yeah. You've allowed yourself to be thrown around a little bit. Do you know why men treat you the way they do? It's because in some of your past lives, you were a man, you treated women the same way. That's how it works. Karma is an interesting thing. I mean, all you men here, you've been women in past lives. All you women, you've been men in past lives. And you've all treated each other exactly the same way. So when you look at it, you're on the receiving end of it, well then you know exactly what you've dished out in the past. Past, present, it's all happening at the same time. But makes you look at your situations a little bit differently. So if you're having issues with your boss at work tomorrow, well then have a good look and think about it. Okay, I used to be like that. But you see, I honor you too, because you have really taught people and healed people. And I honor you for the compassion. You have enormous around the compassion. And as you know, you've always had that feeling of that, you see. You know how much your mother is with you? Yes, her energy is very much around you as I speak. And this soul is wanting you to open up more doors for yourself. Because she says that you get to the door and it's like you feel this lock sometimes. But she also says, but you've got the blooming key in your pocket. So what you've got to do is realize, well, I can't sit around and wait for someone to give me the key. I got to realize I've got the key. But then I laugh too, because they show me, you have a lot of keys on your rings. And they all look the same, but they all open other doors. So it's like, oh, but which is the one? So what do you have to all got to try all of them, you see. And that's going to take an awful long time. So there's only one door that you ever need to walk through. And that's the door of faith in yourself. As Dolores was saying, as we said before, forgiveness of self. But also to realize I'm not a victim anymore. And when I was, I didn't even think I was anyway. Because I always knew that there was more. And it's that vibration that took you to a higher place. It's that vibration that took you to an understanding. And also to your whole perceptivity of life and self and people. You've always known how to go into people's souls. And I want you to do more and more of that, basically. So your mother is going to help you with this. So she's going to be on your back a bit more. So you will feel her presence a lot more than what you have already experienced. And so, because I know that she's got, she wants to push you more and more and more. But a challenge to you is take the formula of life, and some of you may wish to do this as well if you wish. Do a major mind thing, a major body thing, and a major spirit thing. Now you can define what you wish to be major, but I want you to do it in a way where you feel, that changed me. That took me to another level. That took me to a place where I moved away from all that old vibration and all that old energy, basically. Sometimes I look at your aura and you look lonely sometimes. So you get into that space. And when you do, that's fine. Just be with the energy. Because it's not a loneliness that is in a human nature sense. And so when you feel that vibration, just allow yourself to say, no, I'm at peace with this. This is okay. You're a very blessed person. May I give you a hug? Here's a hug from your mouth. That's it. I always find it interesting that humans write lots of songs about love makes the world go round, etc. And then they smack their wife around or something. Actually, there was a song that some famous person wrote, and it was all about my loving baby, and we're going to get all together and all that. He's the sort of person, he actually went and shot his mother. But, there's so much that's going on within people all the time. So much that people will judge. So much that people just don't understand. But I don't actually believe that people are here to get each other. I think they're just here to be. I think people spend an awful lot of time, putting themselves into trying to figure and understand and all that sort of stuff. Because you have within you the inbuilt system to already know each other. Again, getting back to what I was saying before, the more you know your God, the easier it's going to become for you to actually recognize the kindred spirits. But you also start recognizing what you don't need in your life, who you don't want in your life. And how many people still put up with stuff simply because, the social niceties, it doesn't mean you have to go and be rude to people. But why do you want to connect up with energies that your soul's going, no? And yet you go, oh, yeah, but. Or someone else says to you, oh, you should. Or whatever, oh, that's not very nice of you. It's about allowing yourself, as they say, to walk your own talk. And as you do that, then you get judged. Because people are going, oh, who do they think they are? Or they think you're all hoity-toity or full of your own self-importance or whatever. It takes a lot of courage to be yourself. And that's what it's all about, be yourself. And the more people who are themselves means that there'll be more courage that is created. So therefore, it makes it easier for everybody to be themselves. But of course, as human nature does, yes, but what is my true self? What is myself? And again, you have to look back to the God energy, that God vibration. All that Dolores spoke of is true. It's all true. But you as individuals, you will define what you resonate to. And so there's going to be lots and lots of information that's going to be given to you. But you have to decide, well, what works for myself? And I don't want you to try to fit your ideas or your feelings or your lives into something that you think you should be doing because it's the latest this or whatever. I want you to go to yourself and ask of yourself, what works for me? What resonates to me? What makes my soul sing? That's what you do. And then you will automatically be able to step back and see that bigger picture. And then you look to your mind, you look to your body, and you look to your spirit, and you see, well, what will work for me? What will suit my vibrations? And don't forget, you've got this life that you're living, and you can have lots of experiences and lots of opportunities because it never stops. And that's a grand thing. When God gave you the ability to actually be God, then God gave you everything. It's not limited. It's all there. When you were talking before about the ball of light and the sun that those souls went to, that's what it's all about. That's the collective energy. What is God? It is the most supreme vibration that you could ever experience. That's what it is. And so when you try to move away from personifying the vibration of it, then it makes it so much simpler. You can't intellectualize a concept like God. It's impossible. You can't even humanly feel that vibration in the way that it really is. Because in your physical bodies, your bodies are too limited. If you try to pull that vibration in, your bodies would blow up. Not a good look. So what you do is that you allow yourself to feed the spirit in you. So you expand the God in you. And as you expand the God in you, well then of course what this does, it starts little by little sending different messages to your physical body. But then, we're talking about light bodies before. That's what happens, You shift your consciousness and gradually this just physiologically changes the vibrations. So the body doesn't go away. It just lifts itself to such a degree that the cellular structure just simply blends. And so you just become these light bodies. You can see how big it's a bit shiny when I work through the body. And that's just God's light shining through his cells as I'm working through it, you see. But you don't have to channel spirit. Anybody can do that. A lot of you have realized sometimes you're heating up a lot. So what's happening? It's sort of like a spiritual menopause. So what's happening is that you're shifting your consciousness. You're going through a major change of energy. And as you go through that major shift of consciousness, then of course you're actually feeding the cellular structure of your body with a higher vibration than you've ever experienced in your whole life. And as you actually do so, then you're actually healing your energies. Your whole vibration, your whole sense of density is just lifting off you. And so often this happens when you go to your sleep state. So when you go to your beds, then of course your soul leaves your body, and you expand out into a giant CD, going out there, doing a bit of cosmic shopping, looking for things that you're wanting to bring in. And then as you go through this, then the body is absorbing this higher energy, feeding this energy in. The dream state, it's a state where you're doing all the emptying of all the emotional patterns and systems. Obviously it can be a prophetic situation as well, but it's mostly about emptying the emotional state. But inevitably, human nature will actually cease the dream state, because you don't need the dream when you're living the reality. So what you do is that you just are the vibration, are the energies. So it's not a challenge, it's just the way it is. But you've got to isolate within yourselves. Well, what is it that I wish to achieve? What is it that I know that I'm capable of thinking or feeling or being or doing? You up for that challenge, by the way? I've been watching. It's not a threat. You can see it like that. Just getting on to 2012.
Okay.
And it is a shift of consciousness. And if you think about what I was saying before about the formula of life being mind, body, spirit, 2012 is the time when it all blends in. So for some time the planet has been living very separately in the mind, in the body, and the spirit. And as the vibrations have started to pull themselves in, 2012 is a convergence. So it just pulls in. That's when you all become God conscious. And again, it's a subtle vibration, it's a subtle frequency. So you're not all going to sort of wake up with halos or something. Maybe some of you will. Oh, someone is disappointed. But what you are experiencing is this very, very subtle understanding of how things are blending in. And I'm just thinking about something Blair said when we were doing that course in Wellington. And someone asked him about how he's been experiencing it. And as he put it, well, I remember waking up one morning, and I was in the same bedroom, but it felt just different. It looked slightly different. And then I got out, and I looked out the back door into the garden, and it was the same garden, but it just looked slightly different. It felt different. The colors were just a little bit more vibrant. There's a little bit more energy, a little bit more of something, you see. And this is what's happening. You're actually experiencing more. And so this heightened awareness, this heightened understanding of life is what you're experiencing. So when the vibration of 2012 comes into it, it's this whole sense of a new beginning. And in a sense, it is the end of the world. But the end of the world as you've known it, on that emotional state, on that vibration. And so as much as people want to feed you some other concept and idea, it's just you moving into your true nature. It's when you really start to recognize, I'm not human in my nature. I am God in my nature. All right, this stuff works. Right, let's just use it. And again, in your normal everyday way, as the men and women that you are. You know, you don't have to reach for some great height or all become a aromatherapist or something. You know, the world needs everybody and who they are. It's about allowing yourself to realize that what it's doing to you is giving you more choice. So when the energy of 2012 converges into its higher consciousness, you will have more choice in life. And because you see it from the highest perspective, then you will no longer get caught up into the vibrations of density, conflict, etc. And of course, there are factions who are wanting to make sure that you stay limited. Because they're in power. And once you're in power, you don't want to give the power up. So what do? You create ways of keeping the masses down, you see. Fear. Yep. What was that phrase? You can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. And so what's happened is that the collective energy of God is now overpowering that dense energy. And this is what you've been seeing over these last few years. The breaking down of all the negative systems. The breaking down of the way that those who want to be in power, they're bankrupting you, but they're getting wealthy. And so now you decided no. So you're shifting your vibrations up. And now that's changing them, so they don't have the power anymore. So they're like the rats in the Shinkin Sipu. They want to get out there and look for a way of escape. But of course, because of the way that the vibrations are, there is no escape anymore. But they're just souls, they're gods too, and they're doing it their way. Like you're gods and you're doing it your way. So that's why you have to be careful about looking at those circumstances and judging those things. Because you're no different from them. You can put your judgment, and that's a way of you overpowering. Or you're bad, you're negative. But it's not about that. Everything is sacred. Everything is important. Now remember also this. Whatever is going on this planet, however role you played, whoever's doing what, it's still your creation. So you've got to ask yourself, well, why would I have wanted to create conflict? Why would I want to create a government that actually overpowers me? Why would I want to create anything like that? Because somewhere along the way, again, you start paying attention. So you got caught up into the collective energy of fear, of doubt, of the acceptance. Well, that's just the way it works. And this is what created World War I and II. And every conflict that's ever been on your planet, when people stop working together, then what you always tend to do, you create some conflict which pulls people in some way. And I mean, your 9/11 here was a good example of that. And so therefore that created this convergence of people's energy. Suddenly people were talking to each other and they had something to wrap their arms around, etc. And to that point, they were probably just getting on with their everyday lives, heads down, doing their thing. Suddenly, bang, wake up. Oh, hang on a minute, we're all here in this together. And it wasn't just America, it was the world, you see. The whole world suddenly woke up again, basically. See. And unfortunately, they had to wake up through fear. Again, another way to wake, oh, let's be afraid of something. And this is what's happening. You're frightened all the time. And even when you're in your soul energy, people still buy into that vibration. It's a very destructive frequency. A very, very destructive energy. And it is the one vibration that does create all diseases. All diseases are first fear-based. So you want to shift side. I'm talking about everything. Whether it's a cold in your head or whatever, it's all fear-based. And again, you don't have to go out there and have years of therapy. You just need to decide, oh, that's cool, I'll make peace with this. But what I think is an important thing to do also, if you want to isolate your fears, you all have invented them for yourself. So you have a specific vibration that you're working. So what you should do is ask yourself, if I personified my fear, is it a man or a woman? And whatever comes to you, that will tell you what your emotional attachment is with your fear. So that will tell you whether you are beating up on the woman in you or beating up on the man in you. Then having isolated that, then ask yourself, right, which emotional vibration do I need to use to assist the healing? Shall I use the man in me or the woman in me? It will tell you as well. So if the woman needs to use the male energy, then that means she needs to be more directive, authoritative. She needs to stand firm and strong in the driving that she's doing. If it's a man pulling in the female energy to heal the male, then he needs to be more nurturing, he needs to be more communicative. He needs to be more aware of the fact that he's going to have a bigger vision to allow himself to allow those emotions to flow. Because your souls are androgynous. So you're all men and women, you see. So what you have to do is to remember that you've got to use all the aspects. And all of you have this capability. You're very powerful in this. All very powerful in this. You have very strong communicative energies. And people really listen to you. Very much listen to you. But sometimes you don't listen to yourself. And yet you're always telling yourself, I must do that. And often you also say that I wish you had. And yet you still keep on searching and you're still gathering and you're still not listening. What sort of hypocrisy is that? You're giving advice to other people, I notice, about how to be more and do this and do that and all that. And then you go home and go, okay, I really love myself. And so, what's that all about, please?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, no. What's this I don't know stuff? Yeah. Are you going to do it anymore?
No, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Remember, it's just changed bang like that. And that's you. You can do that. People really admire you, but you're afraid. And then you sort of put this energy out. But I won't get personal here, but I can see stuff in your childhood. So there's lots of angst and stuff that goes on there, basically. So you're trying to protect yourself still. And I'm going to say to you now that there's nothing that you need to protect yourself from anymore. So you can take the armor off And allow yourself to realize, well, back in the fight, I don't need that. I don't want the conflict anymore. So it's about allowing yourself to make peace with who you were. And just say, bye, girl. It's nice to know you. I really love you, but I don't need you like that anymore. Because we're different now. So whenever you let go of something, remember, it's not your enemy. You've treated yourself like your enemy sometimes, you see. And that's why you keep having these battles. Great lessons for you in relationships. Biggie for you. Like, woo! Like this. But remember, it's just a choice you make. So if you can make that choice to create that, then you can make another choice to change it. And again, you don't have to, work it through or figure it out or whatever. All you need to do is decide to be the God in this woman's body, in charge of her life, and do it. And just keep on remembering, that's how it works. And when you get into the misery gut stuff, then you say, that's cool, I'm at peace with that. I don't have to do it like that anymore. You're already free. You do not need to go on the trainings. You are already free. And I don't want you to put a whole lot of pressure on yourself, thinking that you've got to go out there and work it through. Man, you've been through so much already. And you want to go through more? The very life that you've lived is enough. Human nature is always about, I'm going to overcome this, or I'm going to overcome that, or work this through, etc. I remember some person came to me once, and let these relationships not go, please. Doesn't work. This man came to me once, and he was only a young person, and his wife had passed away a year before. And all his mates had said to him, well, it's a year now, you've got to overcome this, you've got to get over this, you've got to work this through. Anyway, so he tried very hard, but it just wasn't happening. He just daily felt the grief and just couldn't seem to move beyond that place. Anyway, so he came to see me, and the first thing I said to him was that, do you realize that in life there are some things that you'll never get over? And this is one of those things. How could you possibly get over grief? But what I said to him is that as you evolve through your experience, you will learn to carry it differently. And as you learn to carry it differently, then you'll just live through it. So what is this thing about having to work through everything? Why not live through it? And as you live through it, then this is where you find the natural way of dealing with things. Because remember, your soul already knows how to look after you. But when you work through it and put pressure onto it, well then of course this is where you find the dilemmas keep coming up. And so when he looked at me, he went, as simple as that. And I went, yeah. And he just breathed this sigh of relief. And then cried tears of both happiness and sadness. But it was like suddenly he didn't have this pressure on him to have to overcome something. And he thought that, there must be something wrong with him because of what he was feeling. And this is what people do. They put this pressure on themselves. If you're not having major catharsis, or if you're not doing this, or whatever, then you haven't overcome it yet. Or you're going to find, you're going to squeeze a bit more of grief out or anger out or whatever. And if it's not there, it's not there. But also too, if you don't need to look at it, then your soul is telling you don't need to look at it. This is where some of the self-development energy is a little bit sort of difficult for you people, because you end up trying to look at things that your soul has already dealt with on another level. And so you end up trying to regurgitate everything again. And remember, the very act of living changes you. It evolves you. It heals you. It empowers you. And if daily you're paying attention to that, you'll see that. But what people do, they accumulate. And they go from thing to thing to thing to thing. And of course you're always going to find something to work on. Of course you're always going to find a problem. How many billions of experiences have you had in incarnations? Once you finish with the catharsis on this lifetime, we can start going to the files of the other lives you see. And that can be useful, yes. But then after a while, it's like, forget the past. Forget the future. Let's just be in the present. Because that's what you're living. The time is now, you are here. The future is but a possibility. It's only out there as a possibility. Think once again of the Truman Show. It's just a possibility. He had no idea, even though he had a sense that there was more. He didn't know what the more was. But it's like his soul was saying, go for it. And this is what you're doing. You're moving into territory which you know through your feelings. And this is the step that you're all taking now. It's this powerful step to move into this whole new reality that is your creation. So it's all you who are participating in all this newness and this energy. And the more you be the gods that you are, then the easier this is going to be for you. I think I need to ask you. We need to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Questions? I don't like this.
I get that
Ronald,
wrong, take the microphone.
have this amplifying device.
Okay.
Okay, it's me again.
Hello, me again. That's a
Hi.
strange name.
My question is, I have learned to forgive myself for my human nature, ego, when the ego steps in at work. When we deal with people at work and we're able to let things go and you're working fine, and then all of a sudden a conflict occurs where someone wants to control you by saying, what are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. We're not children. How do you deal with that?
Your response to
Let it
other
go.
people will tell you about yourself.
My first response was anger.
Okay, so that situation told you about your anger. And then you either can be angry or you can decide to be at peace with it. And again, remember that regardless of who the people are, it is still aspects of yourself, you see. So remember, your response to everything, whether it's a person or an idea or an attitude, it tells you about yourself. So that situation, it wasn't so much about the person, it was more about, well, how could I have responded differently? But you see, you don't like being told what to do. And so this
I knew you were going to pick up on that. I can't stand it.
yeah, exactly. But because you are a leader, you like to lead. And you're quite bossy, actually. You yourself
But I'm
can be
not the
quite
boss.
bossy.
That's the
Yes,
problem.
exactly. But you see, what this is reminding you of is how you can be overpowering sometimes and make other people angry. And so when you're bossiness, I know, and it's not a negative thing. It's just you're a very good organized person, you see, and you like structure. And so you've got a natural sense of authority about it. But you can be quite bossy. And so therefore, that bossiness can sometimes make other people feel angry. So of course, when you get to be on the receiving end of it, you don't like it.
Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. I hope that isn't like
This question maybe should have gone to Dolores, but I think you can answer it too. I've read 6 or 7 of her books and a lot of other books dealing with similar subjects. My question is, why is this planet considered so unique and special in regards to the billions upon billions of other planets, in terms of what you were talking about with the councils and so forth?
Because for the first time, it was a planet where everyone could consciously be God, if so they chose, you see. So this is the first time that souls were given all the power that God had to be creators. That is why it's considered to be so special. Simple answer. Up to that point, it was like a diluted version, if you like.
But they have to discover it for themselves.
Oh, yes,
It's not
absolutely.
given to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. That was a very heavy question.
Very easy answer.
Yes.
Anybody else? Any more questions for Dolores? Yes.
There must be some more questions out there for
If I was
Tobias.
going to ask a question, I'll ask you this one. I've wondered, the language that ETs speak, what is the language on the earth that is the most like the language that they speak? Like, if we're going to communicate with them sometime, maybe somebody could write a dictionary of their language.
It's not words, it's vibration. So think about what I was saying before. The more you resonate to your God vibration, you send out that frequency. If you move beyond human nature, you don't have the need for the sense of words, you see. So it's like a vibration telepathy. So it's a resonance that they actually want to.
It's not a spoken
No,
language.
not at all. No.
Mind to mind.
In some of her books, they communicated, the little gray beings with the big eyes communicated with high-pitched voices.
Yeah,
No, they communicated mind to mind.
Uh,
In the book, he was communicating with me that way so I could hear them. But in their normal state, they communicate mind to mind. That would be, there's no spoken language. And the first thing that happens whenever you're communicating mind to mind is total honesty. You can't fool anyone if you can read their minds.
I've studied Arabic a little bit in school, and they claim their language is the language of the angels, or some of them do, and I just thought maybe there was a language that the ETs or something taught the humans or something.
It has its beginnings from that point, yes, but it has been shifted and changed. But again, in the future, it will not be spoken, and it's to do with vibrations, to do with frequencies, to do with the telepathy.
Also colors. Music and
Yes.
colors. Let someone ask who hasn't asked a question.
Sometimes when I'm conducting my day, I'm confused about what I should be doing. And I find myself doing the most comfortable things, which anyway, intellectually, I'm not sure that that's what I would, in my most expanded self, should be doing.
Do what your soul says to you, not what your brain says to you. I mean, you have your structures, obviously, but think of what I said before. Do what makes your soul sing. I think sometimes for yourself, you're trying too hard to compartmentalize your day. And it's natural for you to be a feeling. So what you do is that ask your instincts, ask your higher self, ask your feelings. What would best serve my soul at this particular point? And you just do what you feel that you need to do. I think you're trying too hard to fit things in sometimes. And life can't be fitted in. Remember, it's about that harmony that you are, basically. One more, I think. There goes.
Do animals create their own reality too? I mean, my dog Roper, like, why would she do such a thing?
In this animal's case, I just feel this energy needs to be more rested. And so they seem to hop around a bit, you see. So it's just part of them that just think, no, I just need a bit of chill out space. So, I mean, don't forget that animals, I mean, this is an important thing here. Your soul is not a human soul. Your soul is consciousness. So as soul, you actually can experience all levels of energy. So you don't just incarnate as people. You can be a tree. You can be the sea. You can be the mountains. So you resonate to everything because you are everything, you see. You are everything. And so, you know, you've written about this.
Yeah, I've written about that. You can even be a rock. Everything is alive.
Yeah,
Everything has
everything is
energy.
consciousness, you see. So if you think about it, as souls, you would seek out as much experience as you could possibly be. You could be a vibration. You could be a song. Think about a mountain, for instance. A mountain is made up of billions and billions of souls. I gave this advice to a person who's going to climb Mount Everest. And they said that as they went up Mount Everest, with that concept, they almost felt their hands were reaching up, holding them up. Because they honored the mountain as the soul that it was, basically. I mean, people often resonate to nature more than human nature. They often resonate to the sea more than other things, you see. So you know what the experience is, you see. People often say, the soul of the sea speaks to me, the soul sings to me.
You know, it's one thing I was told, that the most important thing you can realize is that everything has consciousness. Everything. The table, the floor, everything is alive, everything has consciousness, it's all vibrating at a different frequency. Once you realize that, you understand everything is
The
alive.
next time you're biting into that big bat, just think what you're doing. I'm going to go because of Leah's energies and you want to go, so.
There's somebody over here had their hand up, this lady. Yeah.
One more day.
Yeah, that one.
Oh. Okay, this is kind of random, but I was wondering, is there such thing as like, is there such thing as like evil or like demons?
No,
I was wondering, do
doesn't
people
exist.
create that?
No, it doesn't exist. Pure Hollywood. Doesn't exist. You won't find it. The church has created it to keep control of people. What you find, there is evil, but in the hearts and minds of human beings at times. But you will not find it in spirit. Ever. Ever. Anyway, thank you. I will go. Pop Blair back into the body. There'll be a bit of spacing when he comes back. It's been a pleasure. Good night.
Let it come back.